More than a century has passed since the Titanic sank into the icy depths of the Atlantic. The official story is simple. A massive solitary iceberg sealed the ship's fate. But what if that's not the whole story? What if the iceberg was just a convenient cover for something far more sinister? Survivors hinted at a truth that's been submerged for decades. This is the story of the Titanic you've never heard before. Frank Prentice, a crewman on the ship, remembered that night with terrifying clarity. He swore there was no great shuddering impact, no violent collision. Instead, he said the ship felt as if it had gently braked, just stopping in the vast, silent ocean. Prentice looked out his porthole and saw a calm, starry sea. There was no visible damage, no chaos, no immediate panic. Then, from the ship's deep core, 4 muffled explosions echoed through the hull. This wasn't the sound of ice tearing through steel. It was the sound of something failing from within, something deliberate. His chilling testimony completely shatters the simple narrative we've all been told. This leads to one of the most audacious theories. The ship that sank wasn't the Titanic at all. It was its sister ship, the Olympic. Here's the story. The Olympic had been damaged in a prior collision, leaving the White Star Line facing financial ruin. The theory suggests they secretly switched the 2 nearly identical ships. The damaged Olympic, disguised as the brand-new Titanic, would be intentionally sunk to collect a massive insurance payout. What's the evidence? Some photographs seem to show the Titanic sailing with the Olympic's distinct porthole configuration. And what about the ship's powerful owner, J.P. Morgan? He cancelled his voyage at the very last minute. While critics argue that swapping 2 giant vessels would be logistically impossible, the lingering doubt of a grand deception remains. But the conspiracies don't stop there. On board the ship was a journalist named William Stead, a man fascinated by the supernatural. During the voyage, he entertained fellow passengers with a chilling ghost story about a cursed Egyptian mummy's sarcophagus lid. He claimed this cursed relic was hidden in the cargo hold, bringing death and destruction to all who possessed it, and that it was being shipped to a wealthy American collector. After the disaster, this spooky tale became a worldwide legend. A cursed mummy seemed a fittingly supernatural explanation for such a horrific tragedy. The truth, however, is that the artifact in question never left the British Museum. The story was a myth, born from the collective grief and shock of a world trying to make sense of the unthinkable. Let's return to the ship's owner, J.P. Morgan. His name appears again in a much darker theory. This one claims the sinking was no accident, but a calculated assassination plot. At the time, Morgan was pushing to create the powerful U.S. Federal Reserve. 3 of the wealthiest men in the world who were traveling on the Titanic strongly opposed his plan: John Jacob Astor, Benjamin Guggenheim, and Isidor Straus. All 3 men were formidable opponents to Morgan's financial ambitions. All 3 went down with the ship that night. And Morgan? Once again, we remember he cancelled his trip at the last second. Just 1 year later, with his opposition resting at the bottom of the ocean, the Federal Reserve was created. Was this all just a tragic coincidence, or a brilliantly executed cold-blooded plot? But what if the explanation isn't a conspiracy, but a different kind of ice? A naval expert named Captain L.M. Collins, who studied sea ice his entire life, proposed a shocking theory. He believed the Titanic didn't hit a towering iceberg. Instead, the ship fatally scraped across a vast field of low-lying pack ice. This type of ice is nearly invisible, perfectly camouflaged by a calm sea and a dark night. This would explain why the lookouts saw the danger far too late. A direct collision with a massive iceberg would have been far more violent and would likely have sunk the ship in minutes, not hours. The slow 3-hour sinking suggests a long, grinding gash along the hull, an injury consistent with scraping across a wide ice field. Perhaps the iconic iceberg isn't the true villain of this story after all. There's one more crucial piece of the puzzle, and this one started deep within the ship itself, long before it ever saw any ice. A fire had been smouldering in one of the ship's massive coal bunkers. The crew knew about it and were desperately trying to contain it. Crucially, the fire was located on the ship's starboard side, the exact same side that later made contact with the ice. The intense, prolonged heat from the fire could have severely weakened the ship's steel hull, making it dangerously brittle. What should have been a minor impact could have become a fatal wound. To fight the fire, the crew had to shovel coal out of the bunker and into the engines at an accelerated rate. This desperate effort may have inadvertently caused the ship to increase its speed, explaining why the Titanic was sailing so fast into a known ice field. The ship wasn't just attacked from the cold outside, it was being eaten away by a fire from within. The official story is clean and simple, a tale of human arrogance humbled by the raw power of nature. But the evidence and the stories left by survivors paint a much more complex picture. They remembered strange sounds, mysterious vibrations, and a distinct lack of a singular violent impact. Theories of insurance fraud and conspiracy continue to swirl, whispering of switched ships and assassinations orchestrated by powerful men. Science offers alternative explanations, from invisible pack ice to a structural integrity compromised by a raging fire. Each theory exposes a flaw deeper than just the ship's steel, flaws of hubris, greed, and ambition. Perhaps the iceberg wasn't the only monster in the North Atlantic that night. Perhaps the real monsters were sailing on the ship all along. The true villain of the Titanic story is still debated today. So, after hearing all of this, what do you believe was the real cause of the disaster? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into history's greatest mysteries.